The message arrived on a Tuesday morning, encoded in mathematics that made Earth's brightest scientists work for 3 weeks just to understand it. When they finally decoded it, the words changed everything humanity thought they knew about their place in the universe. Greetings to the species of the third planet. You are invited to join the Galactic Confederation Peace Summit at Harmony Point Station. Please send diplomatic representatives only. Military personnel are strictly prohibited for the safety and comfort of all attendees. Ambassador Helen Martinez stood in the briefing room aboard the civilian vessel Aurora's Dawn, watching stars streak past the viewport as they traveled toward their first meeting with alien civilizations. She had spent 30 years in Earth's diplomatic corps, negotiating treaties and resolving conflicts between nations. Nothing in her experience had prepared her for this moment. 47 different species will be attending, said Dr. Alan Cooper, Earth's lead xenopsychologist. He flipped through holographic displays showing various alien forms. The Viridians look like tall, graceful beings made of living light. The Zephyrians are sort of like walking flower arrangements with color-changing petals. The Shardai appear to be living crystals. Martinez nodded, studying each species carefully. What about their cultures? Their history? That's where it gets interesting, Cooper continued. Most of them seem to have evolved from what we would consider prey animals, herd creatures essentially. The few predator species have very strict honor codes about hunting. They only hunt other species, never their own kind. Never their own kind? Martinez raised an eyebrow. How do they resolve conflicts? From what we can tell, they simply don't have conflicts the way we do. The herd species make decisions collectively. The predator species have ritual challenges that rarely result in actual harm. It's all very civilized. Dr. Lisa Park, their military historian attending as a cultural expert, looked up from her notes. That explains why they don't want military personnel at the summit. They probably see our armed forces as unnecessarily aggressive. Speaking of which, Martinez said, I still don't understand why Earth Command was so insistent about keeping our military history classified. Wouldn't it help if they understood our background? Cooper shrugged. Orders from the top. We're supposed to present humanity as a peaceful, unified species. No mention of wars, armies, or weapons development. The journey to Harmony Point took 2 weeks. During that time, Martinez and her team studied everything they could about galactic civilization. The more they learned, the more impressed they became. These species had achieved interstellar travel, faster-than-light communication, and peaceful coexistence on a galactic scale. Some civilizations were millions of years old. When they finally arrived at Harmony Point Station, Martinez was struck by its beauty. The station looked like a massive flower made of metal and crystal, with petals that slowly rotated around a central hub. Docking bays were scattered across its surface like dewdrops. Welcome to Harmony Point, came a voice that sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. I am Chancellor Kessina of the Viridian Collective. We are honored to meet the representatives of Earth. Martinez stepped off their shuttle and found herself face to face with a being that seemed to be made of pure, golden light. Kessina stood, nearly 8 feet tall, with a humanoid shape that flickered and shimmered like a candle flame. The honor is ours, Chancellor, Martinez replied, bowing slightly. We're grateful for this opportunity to join the galactic community. As they walked through the station's corridors, Martinez noticed the extreme security measures. Energy dampeners hummed in the walls, making her feel slightly dizzy. All surfaces were made of organic materials, wood, crystal, or living metal that pulsed gently. No weapons of any kind were visible, but she spotted numerous containment fields and force barriers. These precautions, Martinez asked, are they normal for diplomatic meetings? Standard protocol for peaceful discourse, Kessina replied, their voice carrying a note of what might have been nervousness. We find that certain energies can disrupt the harmony necessary for productive negotiations. The main conference chamber was vast, with seating arranged in a perfect circle. Representatives from dozens of species were already present. Martinez saw the flower-like Zephyrians, their petals shifting through rainbow colors. The crystalline Shardai reflected light in beautiful patterns, Insectoid beings that must be the hive queens sat perfectly still, surrounded by smaller worker drones. Everyone was staring at the human delegation. "Fellow beings," Kessina announced. "Please welcome the representatives from Earth, the newest, potential members of our confederation." A collective sound rose from the assembled aliens, not quite applause, but something like it. Martinez felt honored and slightly overwhelmed. The first session began with introductions. Each species shared basic information about their homeworld, their culture, and their hopes for galactic cooperation. When Martinez's turn came, she stood confidently. "We are humans from the planet Earth," she began. "Our world is diverse, with many different environments and ecosystems. We've recently achieved unity among our various tribal groups and are excited to bring our unique perspective to galactic civilization." The reaction was immediate and unexpected. Several alien representatives made sounds of distress. The Zephyrian delegates' petals shifted to dark purple and black. 3 of the crystalline shardai dimmed noticeably. "Tribal groups?" Kessina's voice had lost its musical quality. "You mean, you had divisions among your own kind?" "Well, yes," Martinez said, confused by the reaction. "Humans organized into nations, countries, different groups with different languages and cultures. But we've learned to cooperate and resolve our differences peacefully." The distress sounds grew louder. One of the hive queens began emitting rapid pheromone bursts that made the translation devices struggle to keep up. "Resolved differences?" The Shardai representative's voice was barely audible. "You mean you had conflicts with other humans?" "Of course," Martinez said, still not understanding why this was causing such alarm. "All species have conflicts, don't they? The important thing is that we've learned to handle them through diplomacy instead of other methods." At the words, "other methods," the Viridian Chancellor actually stepped backward. Several alien delegates requested immediate adjournment. The session ended in confusion. Martinez turned to Cooper. "What just happened?" Cooper was staring at the alien representatives with growing realization. "I think," he said slowly, "we may have just told them something they really didn't want to hear." The private meeting took place in a smaller chamber lined with what looked like living coral. Chancellor Kessina's golden form flickered more rapidly than before, which Martinez was beginning to recognize as a sign of agitation. "Ambassador Martinez," Kessina began, their voice carefully controlled, "we need to understand more about these tribal conflicts you mentioned. For the safety of all delegates, we must have complete information." Martinez sat across from the Viridian leader with Dr. Cooper beside her. She had spent the night wondering what had gone wrong during the opening session. "Of course, Chancellor. I'm happy to share our history. Humans evolved in different regions of our planet, developing distinct cultures and societies. We called them nations or countries. Sometimes these groups had disagreements over resources, territory, or ideologies." "Disagreements," Kessina repeated slowly. "How did your species resolve these disagreements?" "Well, initially through negotiation and trade, but when that failed..." Martinez paused, sensing this was delicate territory. "Sometimes conflicts escalated." "Escalated how?" Cooper leaned forward. "Chancellor, perhaps it would help if you told us about how other species handle conflicts. We want to make sure we're communicating clearly." Kessina's form shimmered. "Other species do not have conflicts with their own kind. The Zephyrians make all decisions through collective consciousness. When they disagree, they simply merge thoughts until harmony is achieved. The Shardai share a crystal matrix that makes deception or conflict impossible. Even the predatory Krexhai only hunt other species for survival, never their own." Martinez felt a chill run down her spine. "Never their own kind? But what about competition for mates, territory, resources?" "Competition exists, but it is ritualized, structured. No harm comes to participants." Kessina's voice became strained. "Please explain what you mean by escalated conflicts." Martinez chose her words carefully. "Sometimes human groups would organize structured competitions to resolve Major disagreements. These competitions could be quite elaborate, involving large numbers of participants and complex strategies. Strategies? The word seemed to physically pain the Chancellor. Yes, humans developed sophisticated methods for these competitions. We studied tactics, logistics, formation movements. Some of our greatest minds devoted their lives to perfecting these arts. Dr. Cooper was watching Kessina with growing concern. The alien's golden light was fluctuating wildly now. You studied the art of competing against your own species? We had to, Martinez said. Other groups were doing the same thing. It became a matter of survival for our communities. We developed professional competitors, specialists who trained their entire lives for these contests. Professional? Kessina could barely speak. You created individuals whose only purpose was to compete against other humans? Some of our most honored leaders were brilliant strategists, Martinez continued, not noticing the Chancellor's distress. Alexander of Macedon, Napoleon Bonaparte, General Patton. They could read a situation, predict their opponent's moves, and coordinate thousands of people in complex operations. At the mention of these names, Kessina collapsed. The Chancellor's golden form suddenly went dim and fell to the chamber floor like a discarded robe. Emergency medical devices immediately activated, surrounding the fallen alien with healing energy fields. What happened? Martinez asked, alarmed. Cooper was already scanning with his medical tricorder. I think we just gave them severe psychological trauma. Their empathic nervous system seems to have overloaded. Within minutes, the chamber filled with concerned alien delegates. The crystalline Shard-Eye representative entered, their form barely visible, while a Zephyrian medic's petals had turned completely white. What did you tell them? Demanded the Shard-Eye in a voice like breaking glass. We were just discussing human history, Martinez said defensively. Our military leaders in strategic thinking. The word military caused an immediate reaction. The Shard-Eye representative actually cracked, thin lines appearing across their crystalline surface. The Zephyrian medic's petals began dropping to the floor. Military? The Shard-Eye's voice was horrified. You have organized groups dedicated to harming your own species? Not harming, Martinez protested. Protecting. Defense forces, strategic deterrence, peacekeeping operations. Each word seemed to make things worse. More alien medical teams rushed in as delegates began showing signs of severe distress. Dr. Cooper pulled Martinez aside. I think I understand. What's happening? These species have never encountered organized intraspecies warfare. To them, what we're describing is incomprehensible horror. But every species must have some form of conflict resolution, Martinez said. Not like ours. Think about it. We're describing professional soldiers, strategic academies, weapons development, tactical analysis. To beings who evolved without ever fighting their own kind, we sound like monsters. A new voice interrupted their conversation. Through the emergency communication system, Captain Jake Morrison of Earth Space Command was trying to reach them. Aurora's Dawn, this is Earth Command. We're receiving distress signals from Harmony Point. What's your status? Martinez activated the communicator. Captain Morrison, we're having some cultural misunderstandings with our hosts. Cultural misunderstandings? What kind? They seem upset about our discussion of human military history. There was a pause. Ambassador, I thought you were keeping our military background classified. We were discussing it in general terms. Historical figures, strategic thinking, that sort of thing. Another pause. Longer this time. Ma'am, you do realize that most of our greatest military leaders would be considered war criminals by peaceful species standards? Before Martinez could respond, the aliens monitoring the communication began making sounds of pure terror. The mention of war criminals sent 3 more delegates into medical emergency. Captain, Cooper said urgently, I think you need to know that these species have never engaged in organized warfare of any kind. What we consider normal military history is apparently their equivalent of a horror story. Morrison's voice came back grim. Ambassador, I recommend you stop talking about our military entirely. And whatever you do, don't mention that we've been fighting ourselves for 10,000 years and got pretty good at it. Unfortunately, the translation devices were still active. Every alien in the chamber heard Morrison's words. The result was immediate and catastrophic. Emergency medical systems activated throughout the station as delegates from 17 different species went into various forms of shock, trauma response, and psychological breakdown. As medical teams rushed to help the afflicted aliens, Martinez realized they had stumbled into something much bigger than a simple cultural misunderstanding. Humanity's entire approach to conflict was apparently beyond these species' ability to comprehend, and they had only begun to scratch the surface of human military thinking. The medical bay of Harmony Point Station had never seen anything like this. 17 different species lay in various states of psychological shock, their alien forms surrounded by confused medical staff trying to understand what had happened. Dr. Cooper worked alongside a team of alien xenobiologists comparing notes and sharing data. The picture that emerged was both fascinating and terrifying. Their neural patterns show extreme trauma responses, explained Dr. Vexhai, a spider-like being with 8 delicate arms that moved like a conductor directing an orchestra, but not from physical threat. This is existential horror, the kind of psychological damage we see when a being encounters something that violates their fundamental understanding of reality. Cooper nodded, studying the brain scans of a Zephyrian. Telegate. It's like showing someone that mathematics doesn't work or that water isn't wet. We've challenged something so basic to their worldview that their minds can't process it. What exactly did you tell them? Dr. Vexhai asked. Just basic human military history, strategic thinking, professional armies, tactical analysis. The alien doctor's 8 arms stopped moving entirely. Professional armies? You mean organized groups dedicated to harming your own species? No, that's not. Cooper began, then stopped. He was beginning to understand. Doctor, has your species ever fought itself? Fought ourselves? The concept seemed to confuse Dr. Vexhai. How can a species fight itself? That would be like an arm attacking the body it belongs to. Meanwhile, in the diplomatic quarters, Ambassador Martinez was having an urgent conference call with Earth Command. The holographic display showed Admiral Patricia Hayes, Earth's chief military advisor, along with President Robert Chen. Let me understand this correctly, Admiral Hayes said. These alien species have never engaged in warfare with their own kind. That's correct, Martinez replied. They seem to find the very concept incomprehensible. President Chen leaned forward. Ambassador, I need you to understand something. If these species have never developed military thinking, they have no idea how to defend themselves against anyone who has. What do you mean? Admiral Hayes activated a tactical display. We've been running defensive scenarios since first contact. If any hostile force attacked the Galactic Confederation, they would be completely helpless. No strategic defense networks, no tactical coordination, no battle experience. They're sitting ducks. But surely they have some form of protection. They have barriers and shields designed to keep peace, not fight wars. It's like bringing meditation cushions to a gunfight. The call was interrupted by an emergency alert. The station's communication system crackled to life with reports of pirate attacks on nearby trade routes. 3 cargo vessels were under assault by unknown raiders. This is Captain Nick Barnes of the merchant vessel Star Dancer, came a voice, over the emergency channel. We're under attack by hostile ships, requesting immediate assistance. Martinez felt her stomach drop. This was exactly the wrong time for any kind of conflict. The station's command center erupted in chaos. Alien controllers moved frantically, but their actions seemed random and uncoordinated. Chancellor Kessina, still weak from their earlier collapse, tried to organize a response. Send negotiation teams, Kessina ordered. Offer the attackers whatever they want. Resources, safe passage, anything to stop the violence. On the Earth communication channel, Admiral Hayes was watching the alien response with growing alarm. They're going to get those merchants killed. Those pirates aren't interested in negotiation. President Chen made a decision. Patch me through to the station's command center. Sir, that could reveal our military capabilities, Martinez warned. Ambassador, people are dying, and these aliens need to see what human strategic thinking looks like. The president's voice cut through the chaos in the command center. This is President Chen of Earth. Captain Barnes, are you receiving? Loud and clear, Mr. President, Barnes replied. His voice was calm despite the ongoing battle. 3 Raider ships. Looks like they're using standard hit-and-run tactics. What's your cargo? Medical supplies and terraforming equipment, nothing worth dying for. The alien controllers looked confused. They had never heard a conversation like this during a crisis. Captain, can you give me a tactical assessment? Barnes's voice took on a professional tone that made several aliens step back in fear. Raiders are using single-ship attacks, probably, testing our defenses. They'll coordinate a full assault once they think they understand our capabilities. I'd estimate 12 minutes before they make their main attack. Defensive options? Standard evasion won't work. They're faster than us. But they're overconfident. If we can make them think we're more damaged than we are, we might be able to sucker them into a vulnerable position. Martinez watched the alien command staff listening to this exchange. Their expressions showed a mixture of fascination and horror. These beings had never heard tactical analysis before. Captain, implement Deception Protocol 7, President Chen ordered. Copy that, sir. Going dark and playing dead. On the tactical displays, the human merchant ship suddenly went silent and appeared to drift helplessly. The alien controllers gasped as they watched the pirates take the bait, moving in for what they thought would be an easy capture. Now, Barnes said quietly. The merchant ship suddenly burst to life, its engines flaring as it executed a complex maneuver that brought it alongside the lead pirate vessel. Emergency escape pods ejected, but instead of carrying people, they contained crude, explosive devices that Barnes had improvised from terraforming charges. The first pirate ship was disabled. The other 2, caught completely off guard by tactics they had never encountered, fled the system. Star Dancer to all ships, area is secure. Casualties minimal, cargo intact. The command center fell silent. Every alien present stared at the tactical display showing Barnes's successful defense. Chancellor Kessena's voice was barely a whisper. He planned that entire battle in minutes. The deception, the improvised weapons, the tactical coordination. How is this possible? Dr. Cooper, who had been watching from the medical bay, finally understood what they were dealing with. Chancellor, Captain Barnes isn't even a military officer. He's a merchant captain with basic defensive training. Basic training? The Shard-Eye representative's crystal form began to crack again. That level of strategic thinking is considered basic? For humans, yes. Every child on Earth plays strategy games. Every adult understands tactical thinking. It's built into our culture. The aliens exchanged looks of pure terror. If this was what humans considered basic tactical thinking, what were their actual military specialists capable of? As the crisis ended and the medical emergency continued, Martinez began to understand why Earth could never bring its military to peace meetings. It wasn't about weapons or aggression. It was about the way human minds worked when they thought about conflict. And that thought process was apparently so alien and terrifying that it could literally break other species' minds. The emergency session took place in a specially shielded chamber designed to contain dangerous psychological influences. Ambassador Martinez sat across from the senior delegates of 7 major species, all of whom looked like they were attending a funeral. We need to understand, Chancellor Kessena said, their golden form dimmer than usual. Before we can proceed with any diplomatic relations, we must know the full extent of human capabilities. Martinez had requested that Dr. Lisa Park join them via holographic link from Earth. Park appeared as a shimmering projection, her military historian credentials displayed for all to see. Dr. Park, Martinez began carefully, these delegates want to understand human approaches to conflict resolution. Could you explain our historical development in simple terms? Park nodded, unaware of the psychological minefield she was about to walk into. Certainly. Human warfare evolved over thousands of years as different groups competed for resources. We developed increasingly sophisticated methods of organization, strategy, and tactics. The Shard-Eye representative made a sound like breaking crystal. You developed these methods over thousands of years? This was not a brief period of madness? Oh no, Park said cheerfully. It was a continuous process of innovation and improvement. We studied successful campaigns, analyzed failures, and constantly adapted our approaches. Sun Tzu wrote The Art of War over 2,000 years ago, and we still study his principles today. At the mention of studying warfare as an art, 3 alien delegates immediately requested medical attention. You study warfare? The Hive Queen Zekth spoke through rapid pheromone bursts that the translators struggled to convert. Like others study music or poetry? Exactly, Park replied, pleased that someone understood. We have military academies, war colleges, strategic institutes. Our best minds spend their entire careers perfecting the science of warfare. The Hive Queen's mental partition completely failed. Her worker drones immediately surrounded her, creating a protective barrier as her consciousness fragmented. Chancellor Kessina's voice was strained. Dr. Park, could you explain what these institutions teach? Well, there's tactical analysis, understanding terrain, weather, logistics, troop movements, strategic planning, long-term campaign development, resource allocation, alliance management, psychological warfare, understanding and exploiting enemy weaknesses, combined arms doctrine, coordinating different types of forces for maximum effectiveness. Each concept hit the alien delegates like a physical blow. The Zephyrian representatives' petals had turned completely black. 2 of the crystalline shard eye had gone transparent from shock. Psychological warfare? Kessina whispered. Oh yes, that's fascinating stuff, Park continued enthusiastically. Understanding how to demoralize opponents, spread misinformation, create doubt and confusion. Some of our greatest victories came from making enemies defeat themselves through clever psychological manipulation. The Viridian Chancellor actually fell over again. Dr. Cooper quickly activated the emergency medical protocols. Dr. Park, I think you need to stop talking about psychological manipulation. Why? It's a legitimate field of study. We have entire departments dedicated to understanding how different cultures think, what motivates them, how to predict their responses to various stimuli. Martinez watched in horror as the alien delegates began showing signs of complete psychological breakdown. Lisa, they don't understand that we're talking about historical academic subjects. Historical? The Shard Eye representative's voice was barely audible. You mean humans still study these things? Of course, Park said. Every officer in our military studies historical campaigns. We run war games, conduct simulations, analyze theoretical scenarios. It's how we stay prepared. Prepared for what? Kessina asked from the floor where they had collapsed. Any possible conflict. Unknown enemies, resource wars, territorial disputes, ideological differences. Our strategists spend their time thinking about every conceivable threat and how to counter it. The breaking point came when Park mentioned acceptable losses. One of the hardest concepts for new officers to learn is cost-benefit analysis in warfare. Understanding that sometimes you have to sacrifice some forces to achieve larger objectives. We call it acceptable losses, calculating exactly how much you're willing to lose to win. The room erupted in sounds of alien distress. The Hive Queen's protective drones began emitting panic pheromones. The Shard Eye representatives cracked so severely that pieces of crystal began falling to the floor. Even the normally stoic Krexhai Predator delegate made sounds of horror. You calculate how many of your own kind and you're willing to kill near to achieve objectives. Kessina's voice was barely coherent. Well, yes, Park said, confused by the reaction. It's basic strategic planning. Every military operation involves risk assessment. You have to weigh potential casualties against mission importance. Dr. Cooper quickly cut the transmission. That's enough, Dr. Park. Thank you for your time. As the projection faded, Martinez found herself alone with a room full of aliens in various states of psychological trauma. Emergency medical teams were working frantically to stabilize the delegates. Chancellor Kessina managed to speak from their position on the floor. Ambassador Martinez, we need you to understand something critical. What your species considers normal strategic thinking represents our deepest possible nightmare. I don't understand. Every species in the Galactic Confederation evolved beyond intraspecies violence millions of years ago. We thought such behavior was a primitive phase that all intelligent life eventually outgrows. The idea that a species could not only maintain this behavior but perfect it, study it, teach it to their children. Kesana's form flickered weakly. We have run computer simulations. Any single one of your military strategists could conquer our entire civilization. Not through superior technology or numbers, but through tactical thinking that our minds simply cannot comprehend or counter. Martinez felt a chill run down her spine. Surely you're exaggerating. Are we? Your merchant captain defeated professional pirates using improvised tactics developed in minutes. Your academic described psychological warfare techniques that could destroy our species' mental stability. Your military studies methods of killing your own kind so efficiently that you calculate acceptable death tolls like mathematical equations. The room fell silent except for the sounds of alien medical equipment. Dr. Cooper approached carefully. Chancellor, what exactly are you afraid of? We are afraid, Kesana said quietly, that humanity represents the return of something we thought was extinct in the universe. Pure, intelligent, organized violence. And we have no idea how to coexist with beings whose minds work that way. Martinez stared at the damaged alien delegates and began to understand the true scope of the problem they faced. It wasn't about human aggression or weapons. It was about the fundamental difference between minds that had never known organized warfare and minds that had been shaped by it for millennia. Human military thinking wasn't just foreign to these species. It was a form of mental virus that could literally break their consciousness. The final revelation came not through careful negotiation or diplomatic discussion, but through pure accident. 3 days had passed since the disastrous cultural exchange session. Half the alien delegates were still in medical care, while the others met in emergency sessions to discuss what they called the human problem. Ambassador Martinez and her team had been confined to their quarters, supposedly for everyone's safety. Then the pirates returned. The attack came without warning. 15 ships dropped out of hyperspace around Harmony Point Station, their weapons charging as they surrounded the diplomatic outpost. The station's peaceful shields flickered under the assault of military-grade plasma cannons. In the command center, chaos reigned. Chancellor Kesana and the remaining delegates moved frantically but without coordination. Their responses were the same as before. Offer negotiation, promise resources, try to buy peace through appeasement. This is Raider Captain Vextor, came a harsh voice over the communication systems. We claim this station and all its contents under right of conquest. Surrender immediately, or be destroyed. The alien delegates looked at each other in panic. They had no idea how to respond to someone who simply refused to negotiate. Offer them anything, Kesana ordered desperately. Our entire treasury, safe passage, whatever they want. Your treasury is now ours, Vextor replied with amusement. Your lives are forfeit. We give you 10 minutes to prepare for boarding. That's when Colonel Nick Barnes appeared on the emergency channel. Barnes had been monitoring Earth's communication with the Aurora's dawn when the attack began. As a military advisor, he was technically violating the Peace Summit's restrictions just by being on the channel, but Captain Morrison had authorized it when the shooting started. Harmony Point Command, this is Colonel Barnes, Earth Strategic. Command, I'm reading 15 raiders in attack formation. Do you require assistance? The alien controllers stared at the communication system. They had never heard a human military officer speak before. Colonel, Martinez said quickly, you're not supposed to be involved in diplomatic proceedings. Ma'am, this stopped being diplomatic when they started shooting, requesting permission to provide tactical analysis. Chancellor Kesana, desperate for any help, gave authorization before thinking about the consequences. Go ahead, Colonel. Barnes's voice immediately took on a tone that made every alien in the command center step backward. It was calm, analytical, and completely confident. Raider formation suggests they're using standard pirate tactics, overwhelming force against undefended targets. They're assuming you'll surrender rather than fight. Their ships are positioned for intimidation, not optimal combat effectiveness. Colonel, Kesana said weakly, we don't fight. We only know how to make peace. Understood. But they're not interested in peace, so you need different options. Barnes began analyzing the tactical situation with the casual efficiency of someone discussing the weather. Station defensive capabilities include barrier shields, tractor beam arrays, and emergency systems. Raider ships show poor discipline. They're scattered for maximum psychological effect rather than mutual support. The aliens watched in fascination and horror as Barnes dissected the entire battle scenario in minutes. Recommendation: use your tractor beams to grab their lead ship and pull it into the station's barrier field. The energy feedback will disable their shields. While they're dealing with that emergency, activate your distress beacon to attract security patrols from nearby systems. But that would harm the raiders. One delegate protested. Ma'am, they're trying to kill you. Harming people who are trying to kill you is generally considered acceptable. The casual way Barnes discussed combat made several aliens faint. I can't give you a detailed battle plan, Barnes continued, because honestly, this isn't much of a battle. 15 undisciplined pirates against a fortified station. If you had any military training at all, this would be over in minutes. Chancellor Kessna made a decision that would change galactic history. Colonel Barnes, could you guide us through this process? Absolutely. First, target your tractor beams at the lead raider's engine section. Don't try to disable them. Just grab them and drag them toward your shield perimeter. As the aliens reluctantly followed Barnes's instructions, something remarkable happened. The raiders, who had expected easy surrender, found themselves facing organized resistance they couldn't understand. "What are you doing?" Vextor screamed, as his ship was pulled off course. "You're supposed to surrender." "Sometimes people don't do what you expect," Barnes replied calmly. "That's why you need contingency plans." Within 20 minutes, the entire raider fleet was either disabled or fleeing. Barnes had orchestrated the defense using nothing but the station's existing systems and tactical thinking that came as naturally to him as breathing. The aliens stared at their tactical displays in stunned silence. "Colonel," Kessna said quietly, "how did you do that?" Basic tactical analysis. The raiders made several obvious mistakes. Poor formation, overconfidence, inadequate intelligence about your capabilities. Any first-year military cadet could have countered their approach. First-year cadet? Yeah, this would be a textbook exercise at our military academies, pretty straightforward stuff. The implications hit the alien delegates like a physical blow. What Barnes considered elementary military education had just saved their lives and their station. Dr. Cooper, who'd been watching the entire engagement, finally spoke the truth that everyone was avoiding. "Chancellor, now you understand why Earth can never bring military personnel to peace meetings. Because they would analyze us for weaknesses," Kessna said slowly. "No," Cooper replied. "Because they can't help themselves." Colonel Barnes just spent 20 minutes unconsciously evaluating your defenses, your tactical capabilities, your response patterns, and your strategic vulnerabilities. And he enjoyed doing it. Barnes's voice came back over the channel. "Actually, if you don't mind me saying, your station's defensive grid has some serious gaps. Anyone with basic siege training could exploit your power distribution system. You might want to consider relocating your shield generators and upgrading your tactical response protocols." The aliens looked at each other in terror. Barnes was already planning how to attack their station. "Colonel," Martinez said urgently, "perhaps you could save that analysis for later." "Oh, right. Sorry. Occupational hazard. When you think strategically all the time, you tend to see tactical problems everywhere." Chancellor Kessna turned to address the assembled delegates. "Now we understand the real reason Earth cannot bring its military to peace meetings. It's not because they would start fights. It's because they cannot stop thinking about how to win fights. Their mere presence would turn every diplomatic gathering into a strategic assessment. And their recommendations would be correct," added Dr. Cooper. "That's what makes it terrifying. They don't just think about warfare, they're brilliant at it." As the emergency ended and normal operations resumed, the delegates faced an unprecedented decision. How do you include a species in galactic civilization when their thought processes are so fundamentally different that they cause psychological trauma? The answer came from an unexpected source. Chancellor Kessna, still weak from their repeated collapses, made a proposal that surprised everyone. We offer Earth a unique position in the Galactic Confederation. Full membership for civilian representatives in all peaceful matters. But we also create a new role, strategic consultants available for external threats. External threats? Martinez asked. The universe is vast, Ambassador. We have been fortunate that most species we encounter are peaceful. But someday we may face beings who think like humans do. When that day comes, we will need minds that understand warfare to defend peace. The final agreement was signed with Earth accepting its role as the galaxy's protectors and strategic advisors. Human military personnel would remain on Earth, available for consultation but never present at diplomatic functions. As the Aurora's dawn prepared to depart, Colonel Barnes sent one final message to the station. Harmony Point Command, thanks for letting me help. And remember what I said about those shield generators, you really should move them. Chancellor Kessina watched the human ship disappear into hyperspace, then turned to their aid. Make a note, they said. Next week we relocate the shield generators. Some advice, even from terrifying minds, was too valuable to ignore.